What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the It Starts With Me podcast. I'm your host, Joel Simmons. We've got a great show today. We have Curt Jordan that's going to be coming forward in just a moment. And I already like this guy. I feel this energy. He is genuine. He's real. And I love that in individuals. So I'm sure he's going to bring us a great story to share with all people, everyone that's listening, from Australia to Japan to the Philippines to right here in the States. Wherever you are, you're going to enjoy this. First off, let's start talking about our different shows. Of course, It Starts With Me is here every single Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And then on Friday coming up, you will be able to participate in the Community Beacon, which is every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Also on Mondays, my co-host, or the co-host from the Community Beacon, Michael Seville, is doing Motivational Mike Monday, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Hey, by the way, we've got some new stuff coming up. We've got a few people that we're looking into that may be coming into our focus. So just be aware of that. All right. Listen, comment, like, love, subscribe, follow, DM us, get in with it. All right. Check us out. You can always reach out to us and you can speak with Ann at info@tenacityfoundation.com. If you think you'd be a good fit, we'd love to check you out and see if you can work and be on this show with us to share a story that will help people to recognize the transition, from a difficult time to a very good time, and something that we can share and learn, all of us. All right, let's get ready to bring Curt forward. Curt has worked in childhood education since 1999. All right, that's 23 years. He has trained and worked as a special education teacher, physical therapy assistant, a paramedic, woo-ha, so am I, and is the founder of Kong Academy, a play-based organization that develops social and emotional skills in kids. Kong Academy has served thousands of kids and families nationwide and taught in over 50 schools. Curt believes kids deserve the education they need to face and be better in the world to come. Listen, to your front, Curt Jordan.
Hey, Joel, thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I almost missed that part about you being a paramedic.
Yeah. That was what I actually went to school for, because I always, full disclosure, like I went to school for a number of different things because everything interests me, and biology and physiology was always something that I was very into. And like, I mean, fourth grade, I would be putting together little model skeletons and things because I really, really liked how the human body worked. And also the thing that was always been consistent for me was how much I wanted to help people. I always really wanted to help people. And I thought, if I could save people, that would be a noble job. So, and it would be an adventurous job. And so those two things for me was like right up my alley. So I wanted to be a hero. I wanted to be a superhero. So, that was, I was just in my skill set bucket for another thing I could do. And, someone needs some help, I can do it. That was my main goal. So yeah. So you were a paramedic too?
Yeah, still am. Paramedic, 15 years. Paramedic, lieutenant firefighter, ride the box. I just got off from work yesterday.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I knew that there was some synergy there.
There you go.
I could feel it. So, and the funny thing about it is, my mother has been in, working 501c3s, that type of thing, and work with children with disabilities, and also with individuals that were having mental constraints and their families. And so I joined in because, like you, I just wanted to help people. But I could not stand, and I really mean this, I could not stand the reports.
Oh, yeah. No.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I was like, what? I have to write down everything that I did? Nobody told me I had to do this. I just want to go help the people. I don't want to have to write about it.
Yeah, no, that's funny that you say that, because that's always been one of the major big difficulties, both in that profession and then also when I went into, physical therapy assistant work, having to write SOAP notes and having to write all these little progress reports and things like that. It was just like, I just want to do the thing. I don't want to have to record stuff. I just give me more people to work with, because that was the thing I like to do is human interaction and that's where my strength and gift has been placed with, similar to what I imagine yours is as well, is let me work with people, right? Because that's the connection, right? That's what that's where I find my juice, right? That's where I'm really enjoyed and excited. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you just say juice?
Yeah.
Back, man. We're going back,
It's
man.
like, yeah, exactly.
You got the juice.
You got the juice.
That was awesome. Nice little throwback right there.
Yeah.
Nice little throwback. So yeah, for sure. Human interaction, that's where it is. So now I find myself writing a bunch of reports anyway because I decided to become a lieutenant. So I don't know. I don't know.
You're the
But
boss.
I,
Yeah.
somewhat.
Yeah.
I don't know about going up any further beyond that. But I have fun with what I do. But much like you, I am looking at a major transition now. So I'm just curious, how are you still a paramedic or
No,
did
no,
you?
no, no, no. Long,
Yeah.
long, long ago. Yeah.
Okay.
I say long ago. I'm in my, mid 30s, but still, it was something that put me on the path. So I actually went through a program called Life EMS over in Michigan, where I was born and raised, and then I moved out to Washington, over in Seattle, where we currently operate, and where I've been living for a decade. And when I had moved out here, I only had gone through a state accredited program. And so all of the work that I did as a paramedic and training and everything for it was not transferable into the state of Washington. So
Mm.
instead of going over all of it again, I was like, okay, new reset. Let's do something new. So I was, yeah, ready for a change. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. There's many opportunities for paramedicine and whatnot, but as you just stated, it does not always transfer from state to state because of the curriculum and the level of education, I guess, or testing that different states require. So when you got to, Seattle, which Seattle, it's is it really as dreary as they depict it in the movies? Always raining and people. There's like a heavy level of depression there. Is that true?
Um, it's when it's beautiful, it's unbeatable, and it's beautiful between a half to 3/4 of the year. Uh, the other parts of the year, it is rainy. It is consistently gray. We have this big nimbus cloud that it basically just goes over the entire city, so it just looks like one big gray cloud, and it just blankets. The nice thing about it is it traps in some heat, so it doesn't get too cold, and so, but it does rain a lot. But the rain brings plants, so we have an an overwhelming amount of greenery even mixed in with the city. So it's really, so it depends on your perspective, right? It depends
Mm.
on how you view it. Like if you're somebody who sits inside and looks outside and goes, it's miserable outside, you're right, you might as well stay home. But if you put on your rain gear and you go outside and go to like one of the, thousands of parks where you walk around, and then you're like, oh, this isn't so bad, and then you actually get into it and enjoy it, then you're just fine. So disposition, right? Like it is difficult. You do need to probably get some, vitamin D, go see the sun go take a trip if you want to, if but I'm fine. Be the sunshine. That's my motto here in Seattle. So, you know, yeah.
That's a powerful motto too. You know, um, I think it was the Dalai Lama who said, be the change that you desire to see. So that's what I'm hearing coming from you. And you mentioned two words that start with the letter P, or you mentioned one, and I threw in another one in my mind, and that was positive and perspective. And that's what I hear coming from you, is that you're a positive individual with a positive perspective. How'd you develop that, or has it always been?
That's just me. That is 100%. Uh, that is my base character. That's part of my virtue. I think is I
Cool.
am optimistic, and that's just something that I have been blessed with, to give back to the world with. So my unrelentless optimism is something that I think is not a cause to believe that things are going to be okay, which is also kind of my underlying base belief, is that we are all going to be okay. Even if things go terribly wrong, we're still going to be okay, right? Like, because I believe in people's resolve. At the end of the day, I really do believe in people, right? Like, one of the reasons why I want to work with kids is because I want to have my hand in helping in the development of basically our species, our the way that we evolve and the way that we grow, the values that we have. This is something that we as educators really have an opportunity to give back to the world. And so I have many reasons to be optimistic, right? It's not just like oh, that's nice, isn't that cute, right? Like you just think everything. No, it's like no, like think of like how we are right now, the entire, like, the fact that life exists, and the fact that everything in the universe essentially has been trying to kill us like for a very long time. Like optimism is not a detriment, right?
Well,
Something that, yeah, yeah. Plus, it makes you happier. So yeah, I'd rather be happy.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for
So
sure. I love it. I love it. So, how did you get there? I mean, you said you have many reasons to be optimistic. Can you name some of those reasons?
well, like, for one, that the universe has been trying to kill us, right? And that we're still here. Um, think of just what you have. Think of the fact that people are listening to this right now, which means they have a device that they can listen to this thing with, which means think of all the advancement that we've undergone in the past decade, right? Like, you take back, wind the clock back, 150 years or whatnot. Like, we live better, like the worst like the people in our country, in America, and things that have the worst circumstances, arguably a lot of suffering, and there is a lot of pain. I'm not trying to blanket over it, but the living conditions of, like, we live better than kings did, right? Like, you want an orange, great, get an orange. You want a lime, great, get a lime. Like, you want electricity, you don't have to pay 10 people to, like, fan you. Like, just how much we have been blessed with is, we're blind to it because we are just always born with it, so we think it's always going to be there, right? But the amount of gratitude of everything that we have is just overwhelming if you really take stock at all the things that we truly have and all the things that we've been given. So it's not that I am childishly naive. It's that I'm present to the things that we have, that I'm very grateful for. And people made that, right? Like, so we can do anything, essentially, is my overwhelming belief. Yeah.
I
So
agree with that belief. I 100%. I think that we can do anything. We just have to put our minds to it. I love that you have such an attitude of gratitude, and it's obvious. It comes through your speech. It comes through effortlessly through your speech that you are grateful and that you would match, that you love to share your cheer.
yeah.
What was it that made Curt Jordan like that? I mean, were you born that way, as far as you can live, or was there something specific that caused you to just go down this route of being this cheerful individual that desired to share what he had?
Yeah. Yes. It wasn't a magical transformation. It's just a born virtue. Like, my mom likes to tell people that when I was born, I came out laughing. So I think that is one of the virtues that I've been blessed with, which is, so it's. I'd like to say that it was this magical transformation and that my life was terrible and then an epiphany happened or whatnot, but no, it's just like, it was just part of who I was. And yeah, so not a very suspenseful story, but just one that, uh just lucky to be born this way, I should say.
So
So
let me ask you this then. How about your mother or father? I mean, you mentioned your mother. I don't know about the relationships with either of the two, but were they very cheerful and grateful?
hmm that's a good question. My mom and my dad. My mom taught me love, and my dad taught me hard work. And I was both raised in the church, which allowed for me to have this belief that things were designed or created with a plan. So now I I would say that some amount of mixture of that upbringing allowed me to just have faith that everything would be okay, that we have, also a lot of teaching around love, all right, both from my upbringing in the church, but also with my mom. And my dad was always willing to step in and help, and he would lead service projects, and we would go and serve in missions and all kinds of stuff. So it was, so definitely, I naturally am and have been taught since a young age of service, love, think so. Yeah, good question.
All right. Now that's that's powerful, because it's not that. So there's a conversation that I think that many people have intellectually, and it's all about nature versus nurture. You know, and if you ever read the book, I think it's his name is Erickson.
Mhm.
Erickson. I don't remember his first name, but it's called Peak. And one of the things in this book called Peak, maybe and if you can look that up for me real quick and put it inside the chat. But the book's called Peak. And in this book, one of the things that they discuss is actually how do certain athletes, or how do certain uh, performers, how do they become so great at what they do? How do they reach these levels beyond the Mozarts, the Michael Jordans, how the LeBron James, how do they get there? And then the thought is, well, it's they were born that way, which is what some people might say is they were born that way. And granted, I do believe that there is an essence in the DNA that makes us to be a little more lighthearted than maybe others, but there has to be some form of nurturing in
Mhm.
order for that to bud. It's kind of like a flower, it's kind of like a seed. What's your take?
Yeah, I kind of I think I echo you similarly in that, because with, on one hand, we have, uh first of all, like, if you're going to be the next Michael Jordan, then you probably need some amount of uh natural skill, athletic ability, body type, things along those lines that make you better at doing that in the first place, right? Because no one's gonna like doing the thing that they're terrible at, right? Like, if you were, uh, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but like, if you're really bad at something, you're probably not going to enjoy it so much as if you have some amount of natural grace or ability in that avenue, right? Now, and if that's cultivated, then I think you have the recipe for the beginning of becoming something great. And then eventually, but on top of that, at some point, you have to make the decision, which I think is more of the nurturing side of things. Either you've been influenced to make these decisions in a positive way or a negative way. Positive being like, hey, I support you, I'm encouraging you, you got this, whatever you need. Or even in a negative way, where it's like, you're never going to make this, and you decide, and I think that's the main decision, like that's the main factor, is like, you decide that you are, right? And ultimately, you can be what you want to be, but you have to decide, which is something I really actually like about the title of your podcast, It Starts With Me, because I really feel like that is very true. And that's something very present with me, is that, it is left to that individual. Like, you can be born in a certain setting where you are, um, have the propensity or whatever to be good at one thing, and then you have to decide that that's what you're going to do, right? But you can do anything. The beautiful thing about that freedom is that you get to decide. The scary thing is whether or not you succeed or not, you get to decide, right? There's a lot of like, you get to decide. And for a lot of people, that's scary, because it's worse enough to know that, like, yeah, I could have been, but but it's hard to know, to know that you could have done something. And what's worse is knowing that you chose not to, and you were the factor that decided, right?
Hmm.
So, and I think that's where a lot of people get scared and fearful, is that it's like, well, no, this is where the group's fault lies, right? It's not my fault, because acknowledging that personal responsibility would be very hard for me. And I don't want to do that, because if I do that, then I have to look at myself very closely. Right. And so I think that It Starts With Me is a beautiful podcast title, because so much, I think, it truly does. Like you mentioned a quote earlier, and it was, be the change you want to see in the world. Right. Is that, yeah.
Yes.
100%. Like I was talking to my couple of my friends yesterday, and we were talking about leadership, right? And leadership truly is going first, right? And you're talking about what does it take to become someone great, right? And that essentially is that leadership. You carve out and you go first. And I think that is one of the main things that people don't recognize in a lot of ways. Like, so for example, if you and I are having an argument, right? Our kids were arguing yesterday, and the issue that they had ultimately was they were not seeking to understand the other person. They both were trying to argue over each other to be heard and understood. But if you want to be understood, then you need to be a leader and first seek to understand, right? If you want to be if you want to be, I don't know, given something, maybe you should first give. If you want to, so it's always the opposite. If you're willing to give the opposite of what you want, right, then you'll get reciprocity, essentially, right? But first you have to be the one that it starts with you. And that's actually where I'm really present to this title of this podcast, because that's what leaders do, right? Is they look at themselves and they decide. And then from that place, they can make effective change. So, yeah,
That was awesome. That's what that is. That was awesome. And I believe I might have misquoted, but it was Gandhi, right? It was Gandhi who taught us to be the change that we want to see in the world, which brought you to that. It starts with me. And for me, it starts with me. Actually, it came, out of my spirit, obviously, but it was also, there's a scripture in the book of Ecclesiastes 9 and 11. And in that scripture, it talks about time and chance and how it happens to all men. Everybody has this opportunity. If you're alive, here is time. That's what it is. You're alive. This is time. And then every single day, every moment of the day, there's chance. Me speaking, essentially, and I think that you eloquently put it earlier, because you start to break down the smallest aspects of what that chance means. And I think that was powerful, because sometimes we fail to see that. Sometimes we fail to see that it is the small thing. It's the blood running warm inside of our body. It's the breath that we breathe. So it starts with me. Two quotes that I'd like to quote of you. And you said, seek to understand others, to be understood. And he said, if you want to be given something, be willing to give. That's powerful.
Yeah, I essentially believe that if people are taught that in a form of leadership, because everyone sees leaders as being bosses, right? But they don't see it in the sense that if you do the thing that you don't want, or if you do the opposite of what you want, right, then you have a higher chance of getting what you want, right? Essentially, I mean, I'm trying to boil it down to a simpler term for a more generic, concept. But like, if you want to be understood, then make the space for the understanding to happen by going first and trying to understand someone else, right? Because once you both stop trying to fight for the attention and of being understood, and you make space, and then that person feels understood, they're gonna most likely give the reciprocity back, right? As opposed to like squabbling over semantics over something, and then you guys both escalate in emotion, and then it blows up, and then no advancement, no nothing, right? It's done. So as opposed to, I'm actually going to just do the opposite. I want to be understood, but okay, tell me again, what's your point of view? I want to understand, right? Like that makes a big difference. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a powerful statement. I agree 100% with it. So how do you get to that point where you're able to center yourself so much so that you take your own self and your own desires and you put them on the shelf? You
Mhm.
shelf yourself for a moment and you focus on somebody else.
Couple steps. Number one, emotional management. Okay. You're not going to make good decisions if you're in in a negative emotional state. That's just going to be the way that it is, right? If you are angry and frustrated and annoyed and you're going to speak from that space, it's not going to be something that's going to serve you or anyone else. That's the other thing. It's not about you, right? And and if you keep in mind two things, love and empathy, and all problems can be solved. Like if you attach that person is a problem, then they're not gonna be able to solve your argument. If you can detach that person is not the problem, but you two have a problem, and you treat each other with love and empathy, then you're going to be able to solve your argument. So if you can detach the person from being a problem to having a problem, it's going to make it a lot easier to deal with, right? As opposed to like, what's wrong with you, Joel? Like, why can't you know, like, why can't you just understand, right? As opposed to like, okay, I'm gonna control my emotion. I'm gonna see that you're not a problem. We just have a problem, and we can fix this, right? And I'm gonna do so with love and empathy. If you focus on those couple things, it's not actually rocket science. Just because it is simple, though, does not make it easy, because the emotional difficulties that we have, because we're emotional creatures, of getting angry and frustrated or whatever it is. So you have to be able to develop that muscle of emotional regulation, right? And that's what we teach kids to do is, we give them these problem solving outlets, but we give them the understanding that like solving problems is simple. It's not easy, right? Because you don't, if a kid cuts someone in line, they want to shove them. Be like, get back, right? It's like it's not easy to control your emotions, right? If it was easy, adults would do it all the time. But I don't. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Was there another step? Because I heard the first step, emotional management, and then you broke that down into two further points, which were love and empathy. And then the second one is all problems can be solved. And then through all problems can be solved to detach the person from the actual problem.
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically it in a nutshell is um be able to control yourself is step one, right? Because if you can't control yourself, then I don't know how you're going to affect a change, right? It starts with you, to borrow a title from someone I know. And then the second thing is from that space, see that people are not problems, people have problems, right? And then you get to decide how you want to show up in that case, which hint the best way to do it is with love and empathy. Yeah. So yeah, just boiling that down.
And that's what you teach the young children at the Kong Academy.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. But then we go through like, how do you actually control your emotions? Because I want to hit something. Okay, go hit something. Just don't hit something you can break, or don't hit someone, right? Don't, or, like what are acceptable ways to manage frustration, anger, sadness, as opposed to lashing out. So giving them actual practical ways of doing it versus say, don't do that. Or even worse, don't feel that way, because how are you then going to self-regulate a feeling prior to having the feeling, right? Because that doesn't make sense. It's like, well, you shouldn't be frustrated. Okay, great, now I shouldn't feel this way, and I do, and I have to deal with it, right? That's not going to help anyone, especially a kid that's trying to figure out how they manage themselves. So what are acceptable ways that you can manage your emotions? That's a huge step. And, based on your laughter about, if it was easy, adults would do it all the time. I'm pretty sure that you, in your own story and in life, you've seen that happens all the time with adults, right? Is it because, and this is like, humans are emotional beings, right? It doesn't, just because you get older doesn't mean you get more developed in this category, right? And this is the crazy thing, is that people don't teach this stuff. And the way that usually that they teach it is a suboptimal way. And like, we have one kid in middle school right now, and he is for his social emotional learning class, they had him go outside and take a walk and write a poem first. And it's like, okay, and like, which is not a bad exercise, it's fine, but what is actually the real learning objective there? Is it just to get in touch with your heart? And which is good. Heart breathing, 2 minutes, done. Teach that strategy, and then you are more connected with your mind and heart than you would otherwise be, right? Like, there's actual practical things that have been researched and studied and developed. We don't teach kids, right? Or even worse, we just don't provide opportunities for kids to learn these things, right? So, yeah.
Yes.
Not that I'm passionate about this at all. Yeah.
I mean, I'm loving it. I'm eating it up. Redirection. Redirection, because energy is not, it's neither created nor destroyed. So if I have this energy inside me that says, I am frustrated with somebody, I'm angry, I just want to pummel them, I want to punch them in the face, by me just sucking it up or storing it down inside of me, I and I could in I can kind of like make my own volcano out of myself, where at some point in time it's coming out and I will have no control anymore of the results. But if I learned the methods that you're referring to, it's like, okay, you want to punch something, well, go punch the punching bag,
Go hit a pillow. Yeah,
go
go kick a tree, right? Go, go run around the house 5 times, right? Like, whatever, what are acceptable ways? Which, if you have listeners right now that have kids, don't tell them what they're not allowed to do. Tell them what they can do, because that's going to make a huge difference huge difference.
Okay, that was something else that was really big, because part of our concerns with being an adult that still has these types of issues is that we've developed this mindset, right? This mindset that there is no other way of doing something, and we don't realize that, yeah, it really does start with me. That if I look at myself and I diagnose myself, I really could fix things. I really could be the best at something, whatever it is that I desire to do. And some of that does come from what we had inherently received as a child, sub subpar ways of teaching, because someone, maybe they were ignorant, they just didn't know how to give us the other options. What do you think?
The word that's present with me right now after you mentioned this is the word responsibility. And at a certain point, whether maybe you had a bad starting hand, eventually it was your choice, right? There's one saying that I really like is, in the long run, there are no victims, volunteers, right? Because I know there are several, because the meaning you give your experience is the experience you get. One story that I've heard that I really enjoyed, even though it's graphic, is little warning, is 2 soldiers. One soldier, his best friend was walking in front of him, he stepped on a landmine, blew up, and he's literally wearing his friend. Disgusting experience. Another soldier, sniper corps, his friend right in front of him gets shot, and his head just explodes all over him. Not a very friendly thing to think about. Both soldiers had a similar experience of their friend being killed right in front of them in a brutal, traumatic way. One soldier says, "This was just proof that you cannot get close to people because they're going to be taken away." The other person says, "Hold your relationships sacred because your time together is beautiful and you never know when it's going to go. They both had very similar experiences and totally different meanings, right? And so the meaning that we choose to give something really does depend on the experience that we decided to have. Even though so if you so when you had mentioned, what do I think about it? It was the word responsibility. Responsibility to me, and what we teach kids at Khan Academy, is responsibility is the acceptance that it is your choice it's always your choice to make the right choice, right? And so, you can decide, what, actually, it was my parents that didn't teach this to me, and now I have these problems. Okay, good. Then, and now what? Because if you think about it, there's no real strategic advantage to blaming other people, except for the fact that you have the comfort of knowing you don't have to change, right? And so if you don't, but then that also you have to accept that the way things are is the way things will be, right? So yeah.
All right, that's powerful, powerful. And I think I read it on one occasion. There's no wrong time to make the right choice. No wrong time to make the right choice.
That's beautiful.
And I hear that in what you're saying. Man, you've got some great stuff going on over there at the Kong Academy. How can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more about what we do, we are running, actually, for parents, because we've been in education and doing this for kids for decades. We're offering a Thriving Kids Parenting course, which is something that we are very excited to share, how you can do these things for your kids and how you can set it up to create more security and stability for your home. So reach out to Kong Academy at info@Kong Academy. It's KONG academy.org. And then also check out our website, kongacademy.org. Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah.
But any lasting thoughts that you'd like to leave with the audience?
Okay, yes. Because this title is It Starts With Me, go first. If you want to be understood, then understand. If you want to be heard, then listen. If you want to be given, then give, right? So go first. That would be my I don't know. my magical words of wisdom for the day. So yeah.
I love this. This was a great interview. You stole my thunder after I was going to send you into the back of the house. Those were the quotes that I was going to remind everybody for you. But don't worry, you've got a lot of quotes here, so I'll pull up something else. I really have enjoyed this time, Curt.
Yes, thank you. Me too. And I'm really grateful that we got to meet each other and have a conversation. So thank you for having the space and making the time for us to do that.
Absolutely. You take good care, all right?
All right, you too. Bye.
Awesome guy right there, Curt Jordan from the Kong Academy. You heard him with his final words, brought up the quotes that I wanted to bring up from him, but he left some other ones. And I would love for people to remember this as well. The meaning you give your experience is the experience you give meaning, or the experience you give meaning is the meaning you give your experience. So I don't know if you can work that both ways, but I definitely felt that. So think about that the next time you have an experience that shocks your world or impacts you in such a way that it causes you to want to diverge from the positive lifestyle that you could live. And maybe think about giving that experience different meaning. Hey, listen, wherever you are out there, just as much as it may start with me, starts with you, and it starts with me. Peace.